So Downing Street's Larry the Cat is about to get a new housemate, his 7th in 10 years. Andy Burnham says he will do, as we just heard, things differently. He's focusing on driving growth in every postcode of the country, although we're yet to hear detail about how the soon-to-be parachuted-in Prime Minister after Sir Keir gave his swan song in Westminster on Wednesday, how he's going to do that. What we heard from Sir Keir, he delivered his message in the Commons. It was an adieu. Interestingly, Andy Burnham's given 2 broadcast interviews to Gary Lineker and to Andrew Marr, posts almost daily at the same time on X, Instagram, TikTok. His supporters say he is authentic. He brings politics outside the Westminster bubble. Here he is in Cardiff on Thursday doing a Reddit-style AMA, Ask Me Anything, edited by his social media team.
I'm going to reveal my Wordle techniques. I always start with the French word for goodbye, adieu. So here we go, adieu, very posh, enter. Right, we've got E and we've got U.
We know he's an effective political operator. He made a name for himself as Culture Secretary in the late 2000s. He pushed for justice for the victims of the Hillsborough disaster. But we know little of the substance, yet we can speak to someone who knows what it's like to try to embody the spirit of Andy Burnham. I'm delighted to welcome to the programme the renowned impressionist, actor, comedian Jon Culshaw, star of the BBC's award-winning Dead Ringers. Jon, welcome to France 24. Great to see you.
Great to see you too, Gavin. Wonderful to speak to you.
Dead Ringers has recently marked the transfer of political power. Let's take a look at the clip, which you cover, traitor style.
OK, Keir, I now need you to write down the name of who you think is a traitor.
Sorry, Claudia, I'm struggling. I'm looking around and all I see are traitors. There's Andy.
Look, Keir, it's nothing personal, mate, but I had to vote for yourself to leave. Sorry.
I know you've played an amazing game.
Jon, can we start with a word on Keir Starmer as he exits the arena? I've heard you give a fantastic analogy in capturing him for comic effect. You've called him the comedy of the humdrum.
Yes, that's exactly it. It takes a while to get to know a prime ministerial character where the comedy is within the humdrum. It's in the steadiness, it's in this plodding style, and it takes a little while to get the comedy from that, but it does come in time. And John Major was a very similar character. You know, the comedy in the humdrum, something in the steadiness. The programme Spitting Image made him a grey puppet, and they played to that. And you get the comedy out of that. It's going to be different with Andy Burnham. He's much more animated. There is that Liverpool tilt to the accent and the way that he says politics. Politics is not working. It's that Liverpool-style staccato. If you relax too much, you know, you drift to Paul McCartney, so you've got to be careful. You know, we've got to keep a good eye in these early days, you know, great.
What fascinates me is the fact that on a recent tour with Dead Ringers, Keir Starmer came up, the character, and there were boos in the audience. And I just wanted to know, is that par for the course that any leader at any time, when you take the show on the road, or did you think, hang on, this is different?
I think it was different at this time. I've never known that quite with, you know, impersonating other prime ministers in quite the same way. Gordon Brown and Tony Blair might have had that occasionally, but I don't know whether this culture of social media and constant media just stokes things up and is a catalyst to reactions. So yes, indeed, at the Royal Variety performance at the Royal Albert Hall last November, when Duncan Wisby, who does Keir Starmer in our Dead Ringers team, the very mention of Keir Starmer, and the audience booed as if it was a pantomime villain, which was, I think there was some talk as to whether that should be edited out or not, whether it's seen to be a certain way, but they kept it in. But yeah, it was an interesting moment in terms of the reaction of the public.
You touched upon Andy Burnham, number 7 in 10 years, as we mentioned, this turnaround for PMs. It must be good for business. And I just wonder, Jon, for Andy, where's the voice coming from? Where are you finding it?
It's always to do with where you place these voices. You know, Tony Blair, for example, you know, quite high in the larynx here. Gordon Brown was much deeper, far deeper into the diaphragm in this way. I think with Andy Burnham, it's a very rounded sound. It's very earnest. The Liverpool twang, if you like, always talking about buses as mayor of Manchester. And it's sort of here, it comes around about here. It's quite a round avuncular sort of warmth to it. But, you know, the Liverpool earnestness does make, that will be something that we can play with. In some of his social media clips as well, he's quite informal. You know, gone are the days of the Churchill type of speech where it was very formal. Politicians are more knockabout and more relaxed now. So that'll be an interesting style to see this, you know, matey social media style, much more relaxed. Let's see what hooks for comedy there may be in that.
I want to get to that point. That's really interesting. I want to ask, first of all, you talked about from Merseyside. Can you place it immediately to the region? I mean, I think he was born, 9 miles from you, from Aintree to Ormskirk. And I just wonder whether, you know,
Yes.
it shape shifts a lot since then. And I've heard you describe voices in that region in the north fantastically, that there's very subtle and not so subtle tonal shifts, curling of words in certain part of the north.
Yes, exactly. I do find that fascinating. The things that, so many things that influenced the Liverpool accent. You know, people travelling across the centuries. If you have the Dublin accent, for instance, you know, that kind of, you know, brogue to the Dublin accent. It's not far before you get to the Liverpool accent. It's just a small shapeshift. And the centre of the Liverpool city accent, you know, where the Industrial Revolution was taking place, the lungs are a bit tighter. It's a bit like that. But when you go out into the more suburban areas, then it softens. And over time as well, other influences come in. Maybe a tinge of received pronunciation just smooths those, you know, those sort of like sparky edges of the accent. They smooth like years of water smoothing rock. And it's a fascinating thing to study. So yes, it's more of a suburban kind of, you know, middle class take on the Liverpool accent. That's in the centre, but it smooths out when you get to where Andy hails from.
But I think there's something that, whether it's in the voice, also maybe applies to that kind of how he is seen. Because there is this, I'm sure you've heard it, there's a well-trodden joke amongst some politicians, John, which basically perhaps tell you something of the character, hard to pin down. The joke goes like this: there's a Blairite, a Brownite, a Corbynite, they walk into a pub and the barman says, "What can I get you, Mr. Burnham?" Now, true or not, it's picking up literally his everyman quality, literally to every man.
Yes, exactly. You know, he doesn't want to go down one specific route. I think he wants to show that he is a reasonable fellow who has a good head for making a strong decision. You know, we shall see. I think that was one of the issues that Keir Starmer had, was that sometimes very bad decisions, such as, you know, the winter fuel payments and things like this, very poor decisions seem to sit quite comfortably with him. His core should have been reacting against that. And I think I've seen Andy Burnham give speeches. There is this attitude of problem solving, and there he is. I'm miming to that picture on the screen now. I'm wondering what he was saying. I'm wearing a tie. I'm going to have to do that a bit more often, but there you go. He's got this attitude of, you know, wanting to problem solve and wanting to look at things logically. But as we have seen, it's such a vehement, febrile atmosphere, politics, particularly at any national level. So,
well, he's entering
I
the
hope
arena.
he can translate this smoothly.
And he says he's going to do things differently. And it gets to the point you made a moment ago, which is that, you know, he is this prolific poster on social media. He's a daily Wordle searcher as well. We just heard a guitar-playing Stone Roses super fan. Among his favourites is I Am the Resurrection and Fool's Gold. His daily media presence is on X, Instagram, TikTok. You get a mixture of political content, a mixture of lifestyle content. This must be gold. And you just mentioned before how it's changed, where, you know, your ability to research them, this explosion of available content, must be in such stark contrast to when you started out.
It really, really is. Politicians in the Blair era, the Gordon Brown era, there was a greater degree of formality at that time. But now, in this social media era, politicians want to be, they want to feel that they can appeal to everybody, that they are relatable, that they are accessible. I am just like you. I am no different. I am just an ordinary person, just like you, and I will work to serve you. In order to convey that, I'll do these knockabout social media posts so I'll look normal, you know, that kind of thing. This seems to be the theory. I wonder, I don't know, I think a bit more formality will come in.
Yeah, he's
as his prime ministership.
He is almost at the kind of the best moment. This is like England before the World Cup, isn't it? Anything is possible right now. You haven't disappointed anybody just yet. Can I ask what you think of what President Trump will make of Andy Burnham, John? That Trump's rhythms, his rhetoric, so familiar that there is literally almost a literal playbook of how Trump will respond to him.
I think he is. I think it's going to be really something when the Donald acknowledges Andy. He's spoken about him at first. He's a mayor of a town. I think he was a mayor of a town or something. He seems a pretty relatable guy. We'll have to see. We're going to get along fine so long as he does everything that I want him to do. He's got to support everything that I do. He's got to agree with the Donald. He's got to be nice to me. He's got to tell me that I'm awesome. And then Andy Burnham, it's going to be fine between us.
It's brilliant. Is amongst what there are hundreds of voices you do, I think there's something like 350 plus in your repertoire. You've been impersonating what leaders and others for decades. I mean, what interests me is you must, through comedy, you're like a by proxy social historian, that you're picking speech patterns, verbal tics, rhetorical habits, the minutiae of many, many prime ministers and those surrounding them. That is quite a psychological feat.
I think it is, and it's been very intriguing watching that change and evolve over the years. In the 70s and 80s, everybody impersonated Margaret Thatcher. And then a contrast, John Major, there he was, don't make him too aggressive. He turns into Michael Caine. He should have done his premiership like that. And then, Tony Blair, much more strident, like C-3PO, but very much more strident in this way. Serious forehead, angry pointy finger. Gordon Brown with other hand gestures and a greater depth and a rhythm in this fashion. David Cameron, a sort of generic poshness that pressing his head against the dispatch box like that, he seemed to want to leave the interview as fast as possible. And then, Boris Johnson, of course, if in doubt, quote Latin, don't answer any questions directly, distract with humour.
You're brilliant. You've got it on camera. I used to be in Brussels. We used to do doorsteps with him all the time, which is where the Prime Minister comes. You get a minute with him. He would say what he has to say, and he was gone. And he was a joke of all the foreign press back as well, that they would even say Mr. and he's gone. You could even say Mr. Cameron.
Yes.
Do you get feedback on the people you impersonate? Because I imagine whenever they see you, they may see it as some form of compliment, that the level they've made it to.
Well, they do say so. That they do say that it's the you hear this tale. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and such. On our Dead Ringers show, we do a David Lammy where he's speaking very formally, and then he's in a monologue. David, and he was questioned about that by Nick Robinson in one of his chats. And he said, it's an honour. I collect political cartoons. It's an honour to be satired, to be given to satire. But I wonder, maybe that's just for show. Perhaps, perhaps it's felt at a deeper level. I don't know. But in order for any impression or sketch to ring true, in order for it to be funny, it's got to ring true. So that's why our writers are so very smart, because they have this way of thinking. This curiosity and this beautiful cynicism, which can just get at the humour and therefore hopefully a feeling of the truth, getting under the spin, getting beyond that.
But under the skin, well, you're like a dentist looking at everybody's teeth that you can't help. I imagine that even when you're not at work, I cannot imagine you're ever really off duty, so to speak.
No, exactly. Some of the best things that you notice are when you're not deliberately scrutinizing as such. These are some of the things, the Donald, when he's not really speaking, you can still tell it's him. I've noticed him. when he's just doing those faces where he's disgruntled by the questions that he's being asked. It's true what you say, that some of the real gems of idiosyncrasies of characters that you notice are when you're not actively looking for them, and those are the ones to write down and to repeat as much as possible.
Well, you're preparing to go on tour with a brilliantly titled Me, Myself and Others. Tell us about that. Who do you think will be dominating the repertoire?
Well, indeed. This is such a question. That tour begins next February. And my goodness me, we can only wonder what the political scene will be then. I dare say Andy Burnham will be there. The jokes will have developed for him by February. We'll probably do a retrospective on Keir Starmer. maybe I always like to the lyrics of the Pointer Sisters. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. That's quite a nice gag for Keir Starmer. And yet we'll look back across the prime ministers, across the presidents, and yes, I think Joe Biden's always a very reassuring character to do. He's always very, that very relaxed kind of character. It's a velvety voice. It's very relaxing to do. And then the Donald crashes right back in. That's the rhythm. That's the rhythm that we play with. And the great oratory style of Barack Obama, who begins in this way. And he talks right to the back of the auditorium, and from there he goes to, let's get ready to rumble. He's a great auditorium character to impersonate Barack Obama.
And you will
so,
know
it's a
this.
mixture of looking back on how far we've come.
You will notice time and time again, when we look at your face, clearly you don't look like these characters, but you do the moment that you become them. Joe Biden, I see it. It's there. It's not just the voice. It is, it's by taking on the facial muscles, the shape. I've been listening. I've been laughing at your impersonations, John, since the late 80s and early 90s. I was listening to Red Rose Rock FM. I listened to Radio Wave in the Northwest. You did the likes of Les Dawson, Frank Bruno. Andy Burnham may well have been listening to you growing up too.
He made, I did speak with Andy Burnham. He did a speech at an event called the Borders Book Festival a couple of years ago. And he gave the speech, and everybody was asking, when will you come back to Westminster? Will you come back? Will you come back? He says, well, I will. Maybe I will do one day. Maybe I will do one day. Well, that time has certainly come. So, yeah, maybe he was listening on the radio in those days. He did mention that. We had a little chat afterwards, and he did recall those days in Preston and Liverpool and Wigan, Makerfield, and so on. So, we did share that chat. But yes, I remember those days. There's still good characters if you look for them. I love the 90s boxers. Christopher Livingston Eubank with this wonderful quintessential specialized way of speaking very philosophically. Frank, the deepest voiced boxer I think ever there was, unmistakable laugh, very wicked. Nice to be on France 24, very proud, and not just thank God, thank you. Thank you, Gavin, very much.
It takes me back. You began as a radio presenter, and I've heard you say your light bulb moment was talking to a receptionist at one radio station. I think this was Radio Viking in York, Anne-Marie, who told you, make it your living.
Yes. She did, she did. I've been doing an afternoon show, and I think I was interviewing Sir Lenny Henry, and he was giving me some advice to send some voice demos to Spitting Image, and I was doing John Major and some of the other voices at the time, she did. She said, "Don't make your living, playing Madonna records. Don't waste the fact that you can do voices." And I thought, well, maybe I will pursue that, and I did. It was a lovely little light bulb moment. So yeah, thank you, Anne Marie, for suggesting that.
One thing that interests me,
East Yorkshire, all those years ago.
Yeah, the fact that when we talk to people like singers and actors, and they talk about warming up and the way a singer might sing scales, do you have a similar set of people in lieu of notes that you think that you go to? Is there a kind of do re mi of voices that are the go to through the warm up?
That's a very, very wonderful question. I think there is. I think we have one of the easiest, sort of like more gentle ones. Professor Brian Cox would get you started in that way. From there, then you go to Boris Johnson and really... from there, perhaps, to gain your gravitas, you take on the voice of the great Tom Baker, that wonderful velvety boom of Tom Baker. And then from there, Ian Hislop, you might want to have a quirky satirist like Ian Hislop in there. And you would run through them. Ricky Gervais is quite a good one to get you going with all the subtleties, okay? Yeah, fine, okay. Much more understated, little look to camera. Oh, he likes it. So yeah, I think you do run through them all. John Bishop, a nice sort of booming kind of, a booming kind of Liverpool one like that. And then to really, get your mind in the right place,
run through Ozzy Osbourne. Run through Ozzy Osbourne for a little while because, you know, when you talk like Ozzy, when you take on that personality, you feel like you can conquer anything, rock and roll, and then you're ready to go on stage.
We've moved from Burnham. You've taken us to Ricky Gervais, to Ozzy Osbourne. Can we end on somebody that you very much have been inspired by? And I know that you've embodied him extremely well and spent time trying to get into the character and how you live your life to some extent, which, can I bring up David Bowie?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. David Bowie delivered one of my favorite, most inspiring quotes. And it's just testament to the genius and the wonderful, wonderful artist that he truly was. And a wonderful piece of sage advice. And he said, if you feel confident in the area that you're working in, you're probably not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you feel that your feet aren't quite touching the bottom, then you're just in the right place to do something exciting. And that was the sage wisdom of David Bowie. Yeah, wonderful character to inhabit.
What a place to mark and think about. Jon, pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for talking to us tonight.
Thank you, Gavin.
And best of luck with the tour
I never
as well.
expected to mention Radio Wave here.
No, I was an avid listener back in the day. It's brilliant to have you on. As you say, you can see your tour dates coming up. It's Andy Burnham. As he said, he's going to be spending the summer listening to people. Jon, I'm sure you'll be listening to the PM to Be and the new faces falling into place around him in the cabinet. Great to talk to you. Thank you.
I will. Thank you, Gavin, and I look forward to the first interview that we will have as Prime Minister and presenter, and thank you in advance.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Jon. Jon Culshaw, renowned impressionist, actor and comedian, star of the BBC's award-winning Dead Ringers and preparing to tour with me, myself and others.